Chapter 5. The next day, Chaya sat on a park bench watching the merchant's house. The stone seat felt cool under her at this time of the morning, and a myna bird twittered on the frangipani branch overhead. The merchant went out soon after, striding away towards the market. But the sun was high in the sky before Noor came out. She was accompanied by a round-faced woman in a headscarf tied under her chin, who waddled down the street, arm in arm with her. Finally, Chaya sped up the street towards the house after giving Noor a good 5 minutes to get away. Chaya was dressed in her usual thieving get-up, a set of ragged old clothes she kept hidden from Auntie in a drawer. It was surprising how invisible poor people were. Nobody ever noticed Chaya when she was dressed like this. The villa was a typical rich person's house, large and single-storied, with a veranda twice the size of Chaya's, filled with heavy, dark furniture. One look at the house and Chaya knew this was going to be easy. The gate was open, but there was a man watering in the garden. No problem. Front entrances were always the most guarded part of the house anyway. Same with the back. Always a gaggle of servants chatting there. She wasn't going through either of them. Chaya headed to the side of the house, which was partly covered by a mound of tall bushes. Just as she thought, this side wasn't overlooked from the street. She stood for a moment, casually checking to see if anyone was around, then ran up and leapt onto the window ledge. She wasn't going to go through the window, oh no. People were careful with windows. That's how thieves got in. Reached up to the roof and hooked one foot over, hauling herself up. Roof tiles were scorching under her bare feet as she tiptoed her way across, careful not to dislodge anything. Voices came from the back of the property. She got to the middle of the house, and there it was. The weak point of every rich man's villa, the courtyard. Chaya lay flat on the roof and peered down into the house, squinting until her eyes adjusted to the light. A well-tended garden with sprays of pink bougainvillea lay at the centre, edged with thin pillars holding up the roof of the inner veranda. A servant girl cleared crockery from a small table set with a bench. No one else was inside. Chaya watched the girl leave, cups and saucers clinking, and then dropped down into the garden, landing lightly on the spongy grass. The girl was walking away down a wide corridor. Chaya rolled over and stepped behind a brass standing lamp. She heard the clinking stop and sensed the girl turn back to look. People never notice anything when you're still. What they did notice was movement. Chaya stood motionless, imagining the girl's puzzled face looking in her direction. A clock ticked somewhere, counting out the seconds. The tray clinked again as the girl went on her way. Chaya stole out and pushed open a highly polished door set with a brass ring for a handle. Inside was a four-poster bed and rich maroon finishings. A tapestry on the wall had a pattern like the one Neil had been working on, all geometric shapes laid out in stars and triangles. On a stand was a blue-edged length of cloth that was a turban the merchant had worn yesterday. Chaya tiptoed back out. The next door was open, a patterned curtain fluttering across it. This was the sitting room, with the low couches arranged round a big woven rug. This wasn't the room she wanted either. As she brushed her way through the curtain, a man walked towards her, fiddling with an incense burner. She nipped back behind the curtain. She was conscious of her feet showing underneath, but stayed still to avoid the flash of movement. She stiffened as the man passed on either side, so close that she could smell the bitterness of metal on his breath. His footsteps receded towards the back of the house. She crept out to the adjoining corridor. It led to a dining area with tall windows. A delicious smell came from a tray on the sideboard near her. She lifted up the fly cover. There was some kind of fried sweet, coated with powdered sugar, still warm and smelling of syrup. Her mouth watered, and she itched to put one of those in her mouth. She dropped back the cover and crept out. She was crossing the courtyard to the rooms on the other side when she heard footsteps. The servant girl was back. Chaya shimmied up the nearest pillar. She wrapped her legs round the top of the pillar, splayed out on the ceiling like a gecko, hands gripping the roof gutter for support. That was another thing about people. They never looked up. She was stretched to the maximum, her arm muscles thrumming with strain. The girl was right underneath, taking her time with the crockery. She hummed a tune and laid cups and spoons daintily on a tray. Chink, chink. Her arms and hips were on fire. Chink, chink. She breathed in and out slowly, willing herself to hold on. Chink, chink. Oh, how long was this silly fool going to take? Chink, chink. She was going to fall. She couldn't hold on anymore. Her body started to sag, and she fought to grip the gutter with her sweaty fingertips. The servant girl left, still humming a tune. Chaya dropped down and leant on a pillar, catching her breath and massaging her aching arms. There was no time to lose. She bounded up to a panelled door across the courtyard and pushed it open. The first thing that hit her was the smell of jasmine. She had found Noor's room. It had a smaller four-poster bed with a steamer trunk at the foot of it. A painting of a woman quite like Noor hung on the wall. On the dressing table were hairbrushes and scent bottles. But right in the middle was Noor's wooden box. She rushed over to it and snatched it up. Finally, this nightmare would end. The two-headed bird etching shone softly on the varnished lid as she opened it, and she fiddled with the secret catch. Sound of cartwheels startled her as a carriage crunched to a hall outside the house. She snapped the lid shut. There was no time. She had to get out. She had to open it at home. Close the door softly behind her. She padded back to the courtyard. A high-pitched scream made Chaya freeze. The servant girl was standing at the table, her infernal tray in her hand, staring at Chaya. She'd come back for a single cup she'd left on the table, the silly idiot. The house stirred to attention as voices and footsteps ran towards them. Sorry, I'm leaving, Chaya said to the girl. She had no intention of meeting the rest of the household. She threw the box in a high arc onto the roof where it landed with a crash, sending a tile sliding down. Chaya leapt up and grabbed onto the gutter, swinging up for a moment before pulling herself up on the roof. She plucked the box from where it had fallen and scrammed. She slid down the rest of the roof, tiles scouring the backs of her legs. At the lip, she plummeted down and landed on her feet by the side of the house. Behind her, a back gate clattered open and footsteps scuffled in her direction. She ran for it. Down the city streets, through the market, zigzagging past mounds of ambarella fruit and cane basket displays and sacks of cardamom and cumin. Then out of the city, past the old war bell and its crumbled-down plinth, and then she was where she wasn't being pursued anymore. At home, she went straight to her room to change and hide the box. She shut the door and flopped down on the bed, hugging the box to her. The thought of Noor's face when she got home and saw the box gone made her laugh. Served Noor right for trying to mess with her. The lid had come loose, but otherwise the box was fine. Chaya tapped and prodded it in the way Neil had shown her until she heard the click. She took out the drawer and saw the dark shapes nestling in the wood dust. She lifted out one of them, leaving a trail of wood dust on her bedsheet. "Oh, no!" Chaya yelled. She turned the box over and shook the contents out, dumping a dusty mound of pebbles on her bed. "Oh, no! Oh, no! The thief! The horrible thief!" Chaya scrabbled at the wood dust for the jewels, but all she found was pebbles. Every single one of the Queen's jewels was gone. Her fingers closed on a scrap of paper, and she shook it off. It was a note, a very short note. "Nice try, Noor."